I came to know that you had a very tough childhood, but whenever you felt hungry, whenever you were not able to sleep, you started playing cricket.
When you look back, playing cricket in the streets, we pick up anything from any piece of wood, from making bats from trees, balls from the bark of the tree, and we were playing in the streets or any empty space.
You played when the West Indian cricket was dominating the world, and it was an era where for a period of good 10, 12 years, 15 years, and you were part of that very, very important team.
First thing I'll say is to be in the same dressing room as Rohan Kanai, Landscape, Gary Sobers, Manika Ambaita.
Hello everyone. It's almost 50 years before I started to pay attention and develop interest in the great game of cricket. In 1975, January month, 50 years ago, I saw my first test match. From that time, I've become a great enthusiast of this game. While I've seen this game evolving, changing, several great players coming in up the ranks in this game, there are 4 players whom I keep them very close to my heart. Number 1, Girish Krishnamurthy, Sunil Gavaskar, Vivian Richards, last but the greatest, Alvin Kallicharran. It's a good fortune of all of us. Alvin Kallicharran is in India. He is visiting us and is consented to speak to us. Straight away, I'll dive into Alvin's discussion. Good evening, Alvin.
Good evening.
Nice to have you with us today.
Nice to be here, Girish. Pleasure.
Alvin, I'm always curious to know about the way you came into cricket. Because if you see nowadays, children start playing cricket at the age of 7. And especially cricket as a religion in India. Young kids and youth, they have several different facilities. If you take in India, in every city, Mumbai, Bangalore, Delhi, Calcutta, Chennai, everywhere, every nook and corner there's an academy. There are a lot of coaches and there are a lot of different ways to develop cricket. And cricket doesn't stop with only just like a skill or an art. Now it has become a holistic one. And there are several millions are aspiring to be a cricketer nowadays, especially in India. But it is intriguing me that during your childhood, I came to know that you had a very tough childhood, but whenever you felt hungry, when you don't have food or access to food, you started playing cricket. Whenever you were tired, you started playing cricket. Whenever you were not able to sleep, you started playing cricket.
Yep.
So you use cricket to really deal with all your tough life situation from very young age. And Alvin, I would like you to explain how did you start your cricketing career in the young age?
You mentioned something about academies. You know, when we were growing up in the village, and most of us, we were in that kind of situation, normal family. Sometimes we call it sad. But when you look back, and through that, playing cricket in the streets, we pick up anything from any piece of wood, from making bats from trees, balls from the bark of the tree, and we were playing in the streets or any empty space. And not knowing what destiny would be one day, because we were all playing for fun. At the same time, what we were doing, once we were enjoying it, we were fortunate to have, at that time, 4 people who were playing for West Indies and Guyana at that time, that came from the same village. Rohan Kanai, Basil Butcher, Joe Solomon, among what there was another chap called Christian, Ivan Madrid, Test cricket. So we were fortunate. We haven't seen them, we don't know them, but we know their names. Because at that time, there was no television. And the whole village was listening to one radio. So we could not listen sometimes. At the same time, you couldn't afford to buy newspaper. When you go to the community center, you hear people talking. And so when we hear those names and they were playing cricket, when we were playing the streets or any patch, we were copying them. At least I used to. I used to call myself Ruan Kanai, Basil Butcher, Joe Solomon, and I just used to visualize them. And then I go to the community center, and when I look at them practicing, I have a piece of stick, and I was copying them and practicing every stroke they play. And the end of the evening, walking back, I've got a piece of stick in my hand, and I was picking up bricks and hitting all over the road in the dark. So when you mentioned academies just now, I myself, earlier on in my life, I thought we were unfortunate. But when you look back, it was probably the greatest thing ever happened to us because we were developing in the game naturally. We were creating our own techniques, and we didn't know. And one thing it taught me, playing on the rough surfaces on the road, you learn to do one thing which is the most important thing to do, looking at the ball. That played a big part toward my success. As I grew up, when you hear people say, you've got to look at the ball, look at the ball. What we do, we look at the shot first, then you look at the ball. If you can't see the ball, how can you play shot? So that
It's as simple as that.
It's as simple as that. Yes. So what you do in terms of that, premeditation comes into play. Once the bowler is lining up the ball, you already planned what shot you're going to play. You don't know what the pitch is going to do. You don't know where the bowler is going to pitch the ball. And when the ball leaves the bowler's hand, he's going to control of it. You already saying to yourself, this was going to happen now. You don't know what's going to happen. From the time the ball leaves the bowler's hand, the pitch dictates everything. Pitch dictates. You may play for outswing, the ball hits a rough surface, it goes the other way. You play for off spin, hits a crap, it goes the other way. So you learn to look at the ball. Simple like. So that was the greatest thing, the greatest plus for us. So when we say we were unfortunate, and the other thing we were doing, we were tying balls under the tree and hit all day. Because bowlers don't get tired with that. You're hitting as long as possible. And then I was playing every single shot was hitting that ball. I was pulling, I was cutting, I was driving, I was defending, all these shots. So I was developing a technique, and we didn't realize that we were developing the correct technique. And when you look back, when people say I had a correct technique, I learned it from the street. No coaching, all self-taught. And the greatest lesson from that, self-teaching, is knowledge. And when you retain things, it stays in, and you're able to now know the rights and the wrongs. So that's where developing all those skills, self-taught skills.
Amazing, Alvin. Such a tough sport, and the reaction time is very less, and you always had a control what you are playing, and you have played some of the great bowlers in the world.
Yeah, before you say that, one thing, habits. And one of the habits I had, never to chuck my wicket away. Bat. Scoring runs should be a habit. And what happens with young kids, which I'm working with now, you can have all the coaching, but if you don't put it into practice, you're not going nowhere. What happens to you have to be hungry. We score 50 today, score 40 tomorrow, score 60 in the next game, eventually score 100. So what you're developing? Consistency. And when you develop consistency, you've got a plan every time your turn comes to walk out the bat. You've got a plan. And what the plan you've got is a positive plan. When you don't score runs, you score runs one innings, and then you feel happy. Oh, they're going to pick me again. Then 2-3 innings come, you fail. So now, every time you walk out the bat, tension hits you. Guess what comes into play? Bowlers look like the greatest bowler in the world. Mediocre bowlers look like the greatest bowler in the world because you're tense, you're scared, you can't focus, you can't concentrate. So that's why these kids make simple things be a habit. And the simple things of being a habit is backed with consistency. The great players, they don't score 100 every day. As much as they practice every day. They play international cricket every day. They play in the best wickets every day, but they don't score 100 every day. That means bowlers play too. Bowlers play the game too. So, and yeah, so the bowlers can't be stupid. They're not going to bowl the bad balls all day. They're going to bowl the good balls. That's why they're being picked to play at that level. So you'll have to learn to respect the bowlers and respect the ball. And you develop your concentration. You develop your focus. That's all we did. Batting long.
Batting for long.
Batting for long periods.
That brings me very interesting situation in the world today. See, we are living in an era where T20 cricket is dominating. IPL, like this Big Bash, all these big Premier Leagues, which is T20 matches, is becoming very, very famous. So batsmen are becoming more powerful. They're hitting more sixers, aggressive scorings, which also have an effect on the Test matches. If you look at the recent time in the Test matches, seldom we play 5 days. The Test matches are getting over in 2.5 days, 3 days, 4 days. And so the game has fully changed.
Yeah.
What is your feeling about that?
My feeling about it is simple. The long version of the game, the technique is not there. I should have been. And if the technique is not there, bowlers are going to expose you. It needs more concentration because what happens, you're not going to play on flat wickets all the time. And because you play in so many flat wickets because of all the one-day game, bowlers are false sense of batsmen are getting into a false sense of security. Their concentration start to dwindle very early. Choice selection becomes a problem. And when your choice selection becomes a problem, you're not able to judge between correct and the wrong element of choosing the right ball. So that is what happens in the longer version of the game. But as far as the one-day cricket is concerned, all right, it's entertainment now. It's entertainment, and that's the way it's going. But one thing I wouldn't say is, all right, first thing, if you were to say that, the last thing I want anybody to say, oh, they're saying that because of one-day cricket now we're making more money. These chaps are jealous about it. That's the last thing I want to, But at the same time, the period I played cricket, I wouldn't give it up for anything. I wouldn't get up for, yes, we need money. But that period of cricket, that period which we played was the most difficult period of cricket and much less paid. And the reason for that is because there were not much money. And for example, playing for West Indies, you could have picked two teams of the same caliber in that year, between late 60s into 80s. You could have picked these two teams. So when you get a chance and the opportunity, you have to make sure you use that opportunity. Don't be laid back and say, all right, I'm going to be picked again. No. You get injured one game, somebody comes in, you finish. End of you. Because that person is trying to take your place and he gets the opportunity and he took it and you have lost it. So we grew up in on that diet. Once you get in, don't get out. Yeah. So in terms of that, I was happy in the era I played.
That brings a very important point because you played when the West Indian cricket was dominating the world, the way India and Australia are dominating today. And it was an era where for a period of good 10, 12 years, 15 years, West Indians cricket was dominating the world. Once it started with the Gary Sobers era, then it moved into Clive Lovitt's era. And you were part of that very, very important team. And you played all over the world and dominating. And if you can recount from your mind, some of your experience and innings which you played anywhere in the world against some of these greats, along with the greats, that will be very helpful.
The first thing I'll say is to be in the same dressing room as Rohan Kanai, Landscapes, Gary Sobers, money can't buy that. Because they were an institution. They were the greatest players West Indies has produced. And for them to be our role models and to be in the dressing room, just to look at them. And I remember my first game for Guyana in the dressing room. I'm seeing Kanai, Gibbs, Butcher, Solomon, Clyde Lloyd. In Barbados, Gary Sober, Simon Oswald, Charlie Griffith, all these chaps. They were icons. They were already senior players in the West Indies team. And for me to be in that, in that group alone is an education. It's the greatest education. And the thing they did, after the game, these men sat and talked cricket for 2 hours, 3 hours after the game in the dressing room.
Wow.
And I, as a kid, if I take 5%, 2% is knowledge. And that, I took that and I used it all throughout my career. After every game, I sit and, even if I'm alone, I analyze myself. How I played, whether I scored 100 or failed. I analyze both. Why I failed, or if I score runs, I try to create a plus. How I design my inning, stage by stage. So by the time I finish that, go back to the hotel, I've already got a plan for the next day. Instead of waking up next day, and when you get to the ground, then you start to analyze them. It's like already I developed my plan. How am I going to play the next day? Against what opposition? So it's not, it just doesn't happen. You plan it, you've got to plan too. So these are the simple things, guidelines which I use.
Amazing. So, see, I heard that, one innings with Dennis Lilly, you literally smashed him every over, and especially one over you hit about 5 fours or 6 fours to him. And so that time, like all the bowling fraternity, they were literally scared to bowl to you.
Yeah.
And can you just explain one of your experience on that?
Well, I mean, in that era, you look at the class of the bowling. You go to Australia, you have Lillian Thompson. You go to England, you have John Snow, one of the best England, or probably the best England fast bowler I faced. West Indies itself, they've got a handful.
Andy Robert, Michael
Holding, and before then, Wes Hall was still playing. Charlie Griffith, they were still playing. Among others, you have people like Boyce and Van Holder. They were all still quick. They were all also quick. So we were on that. That was our diet of fast bowling. And then West Indies cricket was, and West Indies wickets were quick. So that was our diet, playing all these chaps. And also, when you look back, we grew up on slow wickets in that part of Guyana. On turning wickets, that's where we learned to play spin. Rohan Kanai, one of the best players of fast bowling. I also tried to play fast bowling. But when you look back, we grew up on slow wickets. But then we had to compete with fast bowlers. So you had to compete with them. So that's what we happened. And then you go to Trinidad at that time, was a turning wicket from day one, from ball one. Like in those days when you were playing in India, Trinidad was a turning wicket. So we were fortunate growing up on those kind of conditions where we learned to play spinners. As a matter of fact, I had one friend, he was a leg spinner. And he used to bowl to me all day. All day he was bowling. So that's where I learned to play spinners. On that rough little piece of grass. That's where I learned to play spinners. And then we had everybody around the bat. So you had to keep the ball down. And we were doing that correctly. We didn't know we were doing the right thing until I started playing at the higher level. Then I realized we were correct. Self-taught.
Amazing. So you are a great example of self-learning, self-taught. Now I heard, Alvin, you also groom and coach young children, and I also heard your teaching technique, your coaching technique is very different compared to, you don't generally use the textbooks cricket to teach people. And you naturally groom people based on their talent. And in the United States, I heard that you train people in North Carolina area in Raleigh. And so, talk to me about your coaching style.
How I look at kids, I've got different balls, softer balls for spinning. I use tennis balls and tennis racket at a short distance for quick bowling. And then I use soft spin balls, I use swinging balls. With tennis racket, I designed it. So I design my coaching style. So what I do, working with a kid, I work with them and analyze them. And then I work within what they've got. I don't push and I don't push back. I work within that what they've got. And also, I get into this philosophical way when I look back at my own self, how I learned the game, how I improved my game as a kid growing up, and how I was playing at their age, how I was playing. So try to challenge that. And that gives me energy when I analyze myself and to work with them. I can penetrate them.
Amazing.
Like, for example, if they've got a weakness, they say, Coach, they come back from the game, say, I've got that weakness. You haven't got a weakness. I work on the principle, on your positive points, your positive areas. I was one who played on my positive areas. If I'm walking out to bat and I say to myself, I've got this problem, then I'm walking out with that negative attitude. And I'm only looking for that problem. So what's going to happen to the ball pitched in different area? A volley pitch at you, a short ball pitch at you. And then you start to look for your weakness. Never look for your weakness. Look for your strength. And you don't get into that frightful or negative area. So what I do, I say, all right, you've got that problem. You deal with that. All I do, I work quietly in that negative area without him knowing, and I cover it up.
Amazing. So, Alvin, going into the last part of our discussion, I know you are an ardent devotee of Bhagwan Sri Satya Sai Baba, and you visit Puttaparthi very often. And I heard that you are playing an instrumental role on Bhagwan Sri Satya Sai Baba's 100th birthday, where now I just want to know, you are organizing in the month of August a match called Unity Cup in Puttaparthi, and you are actively part of that.
I am part of it. I'm not that. I am a part of on the advisory board, and these chaps are doing a great job. The people involved, like Dr. Gopi and company, they're doing a tremendous job. You have 800 teams, 11,000 players playing. That's a phenomenon here in any walk of life. And for somebody like that to happen in the Swami's world.
So this 800 team is going to play in Puttaparthi?
No, they around the country.
Okay.
They have played. The finals
will be in the
in
Puttaparthi.
Puttaparthi and
But
semi-finals.
this is going to happen in India or all over the world?
No, this is happening in Puttaparthi.
And the final will happen in Puttaparthi.
Puttaparthi, yes. But it's happening around the country.
Okay. Now it is happening.
It's happening around the country. It's happening. But for me, and to come back also to be a patron and the guest of honor for the final, it's a great honor for me. Because when you have so many great Indian players, and for them to ask me to be part of this, it's emotional. And for me to, and also for me, I think when you get a call for something like this, being in the Swami's world for so long, probably designed this, for us.
I'm glad you're part of that, Alvin, and I'll be watching and I'll be closely working with you.
You will be there.
Yeah, I will come for the Unity Cup along with you.
And because these kind of things, they need that kind of support. They need that kind of support because, it would only get bigger.
Yep.
How I see it.
Absolutely. And very nice. And so we had a very good chat. Thanks for your time. And we'll continue to be in touch, Alvin.
We will do. Yes, thank you for having me. And I'm looking forward to having another chat with you.
Thank you. And looking forward to the same here.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.